Today, we will go over real-life examples of best head and shoulders pattern strategy. This is our second video. In our first video, we covered all technical things. It's time to see things in action. We will focus on cryptocurrencies. First, we will look at a very successful inverse head and shoulders trading with a flag pattern. In our second examples, a head and shoulders pattern with a bear flag. In our last example, we will cover the Bitcoin trades, fake breakouts, and discuss how we can avoid false breakouts. Hello friends, hope you're doing great. As I promised, this is my second video after the first technical teaching video. I'm gonna show you the great examples of how to trade head and shoulders patterns. I'll also cover failures, fake breakouts, and the reality of winning rates when it comes to trading. If you're ready, let's start. Okay, I'm gonna recap this strategy first. If you have watched my first video, please skip this chapter. Now, trading head and shoulders patterns are actually quite simple. I have just made a couple of adjustments to reduce risks. Step 1. Confirm head and shoulders pattern. As I said before, one of my charts is set to Heiken Ashi on my screen. It's just too easy for my eyes to observe the market structure change with Heiken Ashi. Step 2. Confirm stock RSI crossover on the right shoulder. This is an optional step, but seeing a crossover over or below 50 line gives me an extra layer of comfort for the price action. Step 3. Trading bull and bear flags and pullback breakouts are my number one patterns to trade. Very easy to trade with a minimal risk. We will use the neckline breakouts for confirmations to trade these patterns. Okay, let's check out MTLUSDT for our first example. We will focus on inverse head and shoulders first. I'll go step by step again. Step 1. Confirm head and shoulders pattern. If you remember the first video, as I said, there is no such a thing as head and shoulders. What happens is just a market structure change. This coin was in an obvious downtrend and making lower highs and lower lows. Sellers push the price down as much as possible. At this point right here, you notice that sellers cannot push the price down anymore to make another lower low, and our first higher low appears. This is what I love to see, a shift between swings. With this new higher low, our head and shoulders pattern shape comes into existence. Step 2. Confirm stock RSI crossover. I enjoy using this indicator. It just works really well on high time frames like 1 week, 1 day, or 4 hours. It loses accuracy with lower time frames. This step is optional. However, seeing a crossover under 50 line with the right shoulder here indicates to me that buyers are gaining power. So, I have my first higher low and stock RSI crossover under 50 line. I feel more comfortable before entering a trade. Step 3. Trade bull or bear flags. One of the main reasons that I trade flag patterns, risk management is too easy with flag patterns. Better entries with low risk and great stop loss points. What I do is generally draw a flag pole from the right shoulder and wait for a pullback to happen. And then my entry is the first candlestick that beats the high of the pullback breakout candlestick. Now, on the internet, with 90% of examples, they enter a trade at neckline breakout. But I don't enjoy that, because you are jumping to trade way too late in my opinion. I always enjoy pullback breakouts unless I do scalping. It's entirely another story. Now, stop loss is easy for me. It's just under the flag pullback. You will see people try to put stop loss orders on the right shoulder or head of the pattern. But look at this, way too big risks to take unless you're investing. My take profit order point has the same length as the flagpole, just right around here. We are settled. Let's watch the trade now. Let's check SANDUSDT. SAND had a crazy time last year. First a 1000% gain, then an intense drop since November. This was one of the clearest head and shoulders patterns that you can ever see. Step 1. Confirm head and shoulders. As you notice, the pattern is so clear, shifting from uptrend to downtrend, with the first lower high. If you remember my first video, I do not care about patterns or shapes. It does not concern me at all. We will never see perfect shapes in real charts. What I only focus on is market structure, highs and lows. Can the sellers or buyers push the price up or down? These all I care. Step 2. Confirm stock RSI crossover. There's a nice crossover here, over the 50 line, aligning exactly with the right shoulder. This is what I like, seeing the first lower high and a stock RSI crossover. Now I know that there could be a steady downtrend with strong sellers. Step 3. This time we will trade the bull flag, drawing the pole and flag from the right shoulder. And this candlestick is my entry candle. Now, I'm not against trying to trade at neckline breakout right here, but it's not my choice because this trade could have turned to double bottoms any moment. I find flag patterns safer and easier to trade. However, if you are scalping this pattern in lower time frames, yes, you can quickly ride breakouts like this one. This is what scalping is for. Quick rides and getting in and out in seconds or minutes. My stop order is just right here. I do not place it at shoulders or head. My profit point has the same length as the pole length. In reality, these profit measurements are just for guidance. I have many times taken early profits from my positions, depending on the money that I put into position. Okay, now let's watch the trade. Now, let's observe these two head and shoulders patterns in a row on the Bitcoin chart. These are great examples of real trading experience. As you can see, the first pattern fails with a fake neckline breakout. Now, could you have known about the fake breakout? No, you cannot. No one can know fake breakouts. Of course, you can watch order books, level 2, volume and other profilers and improve your guess. However, no one in the world can know what's gonna happen with 100% accuracy unless you are the main shareholder for that security. If there was such a thing, me, Warren Buffett and Elon Musk would be having a tea party in the Caribbean islands right now. We traders do not focus on win rates, we focus on risk management and profits. Imagine this, you keep having winning trades, 49 out of 50 wins, and one loss only. Your winning trade percentage is 98%, it's amazing. However, you did not do a risk management with your last trade and lost all your capital with that. Now you are a trader with a 98% winning rate and zero profit. Just focus on risk management and profits. That's it. Let's get back to the chart. This is another reason that I love flag patterns. As you can see, we do not have a bear flag to trade here. There's the pole, but not a flag or pullback breakout. Now, the second head and shoulders worked really well. Nice pattern as you can see, clear neckline breakout and a bear flag. Trend completely changed from uptrend to downtrend. So, what do? We just keep trying new trades with risk management. You can make money with a 20% winning rate. Actually, this is what AI bots do. They have no emotions, they do not have hope or imagination. They cut losses without fear and keep trying new positions. However, there is no guarantee, of course, because we are playing a guessing game with millions of players. There are millions of buy and sell orders in the world, affecting millions of different securities at the same time. Extremely complex structure. Okay folks, I hope that you enjoyed the video. As I said, trading head and shoulders with a top strategy is easy and powerful. We traders just keep trying new positions with risk management, keeping our losses small as much as possible. Would you like to subscribe to the channel and leave a like for me? For now, please take care and see you soon.